Yeah, so we have a couple questions just to test your knowledge, to see what you gathered from the presentation. And I'm pretty sure these are multiple choice questions. So the first one, what sound do the letters LL and Y make? Oh, I see someone has already typed it in. Yeah, okay, that's 100%. I see everybody got this sound. Lakache, asher, very distinct accent. At first it kind of threw me off, but I will say I kind of like it. When I speak in my Spanish classes now, I try to implement it into into when I'm speaking. The second question, so again, you're gonna try to conjugate the verb into present tense. The verb here is tener. Actually, you can guess again if you want to, write it in the chat what you think tener means, but I'm just filling it in so it's in the correct conjugation for present tense. Yeah, so I see most people got it. Tienes que quedarte en casa durante la cuarentena, which means you have to stay at home during the quarantine. We can go to the next question. What is the name of the musical group that mixes traditional tango and electronica music?
We've got some good answers in the chat. Neo Tango, correct.
All right. And the group name was Bajo Fondo.
Oh.
I actually forgot to mention this earlier, but I guess you can kind of guess. Is every word in the title of Spanish books and movies capitalized, yes or no? It's like an even split. So yeah, so actually the titles of whether it be essays or movies, I don't know if you can go to the previous slide, but you saw earlier that it's actually not capitalized. It's only the first word in the title of something is capitalized.
And the next one, number 5, do you remember what hajimemashite means? So kind of a split. Just for, reminder, it's what you say when you first introduce yourself to someone. You never say it afterwards, but yeah. My name is watashi no namae wa, and no one said student, so you're on a pretty good track. Next one, how many writing systems does Japanese have? Yeah, so most of you guys got it right. There's 3 writing systems. Again, kanji, hiragana, and katakana. A lot more than English, but not so intimidating when you get them down. And then lastly, can you name a Japanese artist? Or which of the following are Japanese artists? So yeah, pretty much you guys got it all right. No one answered the second choice, which is not a Japanese artist. But yeah, Arashi and Kyaru Pamu Pamu are both pretty well-known artists. Arashi being mainly the most prominent household name. It's been around for about 20 years. Recommend checking out their music if you're interested. And that's pretty much all. So you can, in the chat box, you can ask us any questions that you'd like about our experiences studying abroad in Japan and Argentina, or just in general.
Yeah, you can use the chat or the Q&A function. And so we have at least 5 to 10 minutes maybe for questions. And yeah, they can be anything about the presentation or just anything about Japan or Argentina.
Would any of you consider studying abroad in Japan or Argentina in the near future? Far future.
I hope I see a yes.
All right.
Yeah, I highly recommend. It's obvio. I highly recommend studying abroad. It was actually my first time going anywhere for a long period of time, so really cool.
So in the chat asks how long did it take to learn Japanese? I've been studying it since my freshman year in university, but some programs you don't really need to know any Japanese to go and study abroad. You typically learn it there, so you can start at any level.
It's about the presentation, if anything was confusing, or our experiences when we were abroad.
So I have another question. Is it expensive for a student to live in Japan?
That kind of varies on the area that you go to. Tokyo is pretty expensive, but other prefectures aren't that expensive. When I lived in Chiba, my daily cost of living wasn't that high. But in Tokyo, commuting was pretty expensive, and like shopping for food was pretty expensive.
How far is the flight to Argentina, Kierra?
Yeah, so I flew from Greensboro, from Greensboro and went to Atlanta and then to the capital. I'd say it took about 10 hours total of flight time. And then my layover in Atlanta was about an hour and a half, I think. So it was a long, I left at night and got there in the morning. And then actually I left, what was this, May? So they were entering in their winter season. So I wore I wore shorts. I wore very light pants on the plane. And then when I got there, it was a lot cooler. So
We have another question, I think, for both of you. How safe is it for people of color? Are they welcomed there in Japan and Argentina?
you want to go first?
Oh, sure. From my own experience, I say that Japan's pretty safe and welcoming. It has a lower crime rate than America, actually. I felt safer there walking around the streets than here, to be honest. But yeah, the crime rate's pretty low, and everyone's typically pretty friendly and helpful if you're a foreigner, because they know like it's kind of hard to get around. So yeah, I wouldn't let like any fear discourage you from going there.
Yeah, so actually that was one things I thought about a lot going there. If you remember the video from earlier of the Bajo Fondo, the people dancing on the train, I thought it was very ironic because you do not see that many people of color, at least Black people, in Argentina, especially in Buenos Aires, and that comes from a lot of history and immigration and things like that. But I did feel safe. I remember one time, probably wasn't the smartest thing, but I was walking from that street that you saw earlier to my apartment because I didn't feel like getting on the train because it was 6 o'clock traffic and there was no way I was going to shut myself on the train. So I walked and it took about 45 minutes. But I didn't experience anything. People are actually very friendly there, very inviting. They usually just want to talk to you so they can practice, especially if they hear you speaking English, they usually want to talk to you so they can practice their English. But yeah, I had a really positive experience. Didn't feel unsafe. Yeah, people were very nice there.
All right, maybe just a couple other questions. What is the best thing you remember while in Japan or Argentina? One of your best memories or experiences?
I think overall, just living with my host family was my best experience. That was the first time that I studied abroad in Japan, and I don't know, it's just really nice to have just a little family to come home to when you're just adjusting to a new culture and you're like having culture shock and you can speak with them. And also it's really nice having meals because cooking abroad by yourself is hard.
Yeah, I would say something similar. I really love my host mom. I still speak to her daily. She had a dog, so it was nice to have a dog again. I don't have one here. I really want one, but I actually think I really enjoyed. We took a trip to Uruguay, which is about an hour boat ride from Buenos Aires, and we were there for just a day trip. We went to this beach and a lemon farm, and it was very beautiful. I wish I probably should have included pictures, but yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I see someone said, how much does it typically cost to study abroad? It depends on if you're going for a summer, if you're going for a semester, and if you're doing a semester, is it exchange or is it not exchange? I went during the summer and I luckily got a scholarship. The program itself, I would say, was about 5,000, and then another $1.5 grand for the plane ride. And then there's kind of expenses, such as if you like to eat out all the time, or if you like to, get cheaper things and cook at home, if you have a host mom or if you have a kitchen. And that can kind of cut down your costs and how much travel you do outside of just your program itself. Because some students it took like a very cheap ride to the wine vineyard area, about an hour and a half plane ride from where we were.
Some of the other questions. Someone asked how your host families are doing, and then someone else asked, is the food good in Japan? So I'm going to do the last couple of questions maybe.
I can attest that the food is very delicious in Japan. There's just a very broad amount of things you can try if you're of interest and you're just very open. Like the sushi is really good, ramen's good, and just like street food in general is delicious. And I think they take a lot of pride in like the presentation of their food and making it. So I feel like everything you get is probably delicious. Even like stuff you get at the convenience store, delicious.
Yeah, so to answer the question about how my host family is doing, Yeah, I was speaking to her not too long ago, and she is honestly very sad because she lives in an apartment, and a lot of the city itself is pretty much buildings, and they can't go anywhere except for the grocery store. Like I mentioned earlier, she has a dog, so she really can only take the dog outside to use the bathroom and then has to go back up. But I try to just kind of reach out to her every so often to see how she's doing. Yeah, hopefully things simmer down within the next few months, but yeah, we'll see. I see someone as a major takeaway from living abroad. For me, because I never spoke Spanish really. I could understand it fine and I could speak it fine, but I never really actually engaged in speaking because I was always like, oh, they're gonna judge me for it here. But when I went, just not being scared to practice, people will help you if, yeah, people will help you if you make a mistake. They're more than willing to help you and they can understand you. Just about getting the overall message, but don't be afraid to speak when you're trying to learn a language.
Yeah, it's just living abroad in general. I feel like it made me a lot more independent and a lot more confident in myself just because like when you're over there, you really have to depend on yourself for things that you took for granted when you're in your home country. Like I had to go to the city office and register as a citizen, for example. And like I've never had to do that before. And then doing it in like a mixture of like broken Japanese and English really tested my limits abilities.
All right, maybe the last question. Do study abroad students live with different host families or can you live together? So maybe a little bit about how host families work.
So it depends. It depends on the program. It also just your own personal preference. When I first studied abroad, my program only had host families as an option to live. So I had to have a host family. The second time, you can choose to be in a host family. You can choose to be in a dorm, or you can choose to have your own form of housing. And for my school, their dorms are actually full. So I chose my own form of housing, which was a share house. So I lived with other students and other Japanese people.
Yeah, for me, I did the host family. It was actually only host family for this one as well, just because the university it's pretty much spread out throughout the city itself. Is not like a campus style. It's pretty much multiple buildings throughout the city. And I would live with her and take the train to my building pretty much every morning. It was only about 4 days a week because that was a summer study program, but I'm pretty sure it's different for semester.